Hello, welcome to episode 7 of The Playground. This is the community event for the Play by Jellynote server where the section leaders will talk about different things every week and solicit some user feedback and do a little bit of fun games at the end as well. So if you don't know who I am JC the Beard. I am the brass section leader here at Play, and I'm joined today by Dana, who's the string section leader. Dana, want to say hello?
Yeah, hello everybody. Very happy to be here. Very happy that you're all here. And can't wait to get chatting about this stuff. We are super excited with all of the stuff that we have to share today. Can't wait to get into it. With that, JC, do you want to kind of introduce our topic, get us going?
Yeah. So this week's topic is tying into next week's composition and arrangement seminar. So what we wanted to do this week is give a little bit of an introduction, brief overview of some composing and arranging techniques that we find useful in case you want to be submitting something to next week's event, or if you just want to learn maybe something you hadn't thought of before about the process of composing and arranging from us, since we end up writing, I don't know, pretty much every single week we're uploading some new arrangement of ours to the Play platform. So if you want, Dana, I'll go ahead and say a little bit about my thoughts on composition and arranging. And if you want to jump in at any point, please feel free. If any of you in
Yeah,
the
go for it.
audience have any questions or comments or anything at any time, just feel free to speak up and ask for clarification. Or if you have input on something, this is why we're here, to talk to you guys about this topic. So feel free to make use of whatever you want us to talk to you about. So I'll go ahead and get started by just saying we're not really going to get into theory too much today, because theory is extremely complicated and it takes years and years and years of formal education to get a full understanding of. And even then, there's always something you're not going to know. So we have a limited amount of time today. We're not going to dive too much into it. We're going to try and focus more on overall themes and different ways to take advantage of making music the way you want to and making sure that's actually playable by other people. So I guess to start off with, I have a kind of a little, it's not really a flowchart because I don't have a graphic. I didn't prepare anything for you guys to look at, but I have a couple steps that I always like to think of when I'm composing or arranging. So whenever I start out, the first question I ask myself is, what instrumentation am I writing for? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the instruments? Are there range considerations? Do any instruments overlap with each other? Is there going to be a gap that instruments can't really cover very well? So just to expand on that a little bit, most of what I do is brass writing. So since I'm the brass section leader here, I will do brass arrangements, usually brass quintet, sextet, septet, whatever you want to call number arrangements or whatever. Most of the stuff I write, for play at least, is 6 or 7 brass parts, usually 2 trumpets, 1 or 2 horns, a trombone, a euphonium, and a tuba to cover 99% of brass instruments that people are actually playing. So what I do is I try to make sure that I have an instrumentation and arrangement that's going to cover pretty much the full gamut of notes and tonal colors available. Even if I'm not including everybody, I want to make sure that there's at least some representation of all of those things to make it a little bit more of an appealing thing. So that's the first question I ask myself: instrumentation concerns. A second question is, what's the purpose of the piece? What's the intended performance venue? What kind of people are going to be playing it? And what kind of mood do I want to portray with it? So specifically for play, since this is more or less the focus of these events, play is supposed to be something that is fun and accessible, and at least in my opinion, a little bit less serious, a little bit more lighthearted, and focused on just enjoying making music with people. It doesn't have to be super cerebral. It doesn't need to be very complicated. The main goal, in my opinion, and when I try to write stuff, is I want to write something that people can play relatively easily with a minimal amount of practice, have fun doing it, and just enjoy their time on the platform. Obviously, if you're doing something else, if you're writing for, say, high school band or symphony orchestra, like, those goals are going to be a lot different, and the way that you approach your writing is going to be different as well. So just make sure you're asking yourself the questions to get the right kind of feel behind your piece. That's step 2. Step 3 is where the difference between composition and arrangement shows up. So if it's a composition, after you've decided your instrumentation and what kind of feel you want to have to the piece, what the performance venue is going to be, then at that point you get to let your imagination run wild and figure out, okay, what kind of themes do I want? What kind of key, what kind of different modes or different musical motifs am I going to put in this piece? Excuse me. And then at that point, that's when you just kind of sit at your piano or on your instrument or in your notation software and just kind of put stuff down and see what works, see what doesn't work, and then follow your own creative process from there. But if it's an arrangement, which is at this point 95% of what I'm doing, then you have more questions to ask yourself. So the first one I like to ask myself is, how faithful of an arrangement does this need to be? Is this going to be strictly just a transcription of something that is reset for different instruments? Is it supposed to combine different themes in different parts of the original piece of music and condense them into a shorter time? Or to just layer them on top of each other, or add some other sort of feel to it? Am I changing genres of something? And then at that point, after you've decided how much you want to, I guess, align with the original composition, you need to decide, okay, do I have to cut anything? Do I have to add anything? Do I need to thin textures out? Do I need to add beef to something? Do I need to add different instruments that weren't there in the original arrangement? Or do I need to do something completely different entirely? And then at that point, I like to decide, okay, what's most important when I'm changing the piece? What's most important to keep the same? Obviously, the melody, in my opinion, is the most important thing to keep the same. Then after that, if there's some sort of really recognizable thing, like an iconic bass line that everybody remembers, or if there's a counter melody, or if there's specific harmonies or specific, like, I guess, maybe like harmonic structures, chord progressions, or whatever that people are going to expect to hear to identify that piece as that piece, even if it's an arrangement, then that's something to keep into consideration as well. Depending on the instrumentation that I'm writing for, is it necessary to change the key? Is it necessary to reorganize themes, blend any together, or whatever? Like, for example, I don't want to take too much time away from what Dana's got to say, but I will get into
No, you're
later.
saying
Sorry?
like everything I was going to cover, so just keep doing it. Then I have to talk,
Okay,
then I
that's
get
fine.
to talk less.
All right, well, that works out well then. So I guess I can probably just go straight into an example I have prepared for you guys. So if you've been around Play for a little bit, you probably have seen some videos of the Tetris theme arrangement I did. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to share my screen with the Play, or Jelly Note rather, the Jelly Note website, parent company of Play. So you should be able to now, if you click on the live stream thing right here, you should be able to see the Jelly Note website with the score of the Tetris theme that I had arranged for it on there. Can everybody see that?
Yep, you're good.
Cool. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hit play. And what this is really cool how the Jelly Note website is set up is you can add or subtract individual components of an arrangement just by clicking up here. If you have access to a Jelly Note account where you can view the sheet music, it's separate from Play. It's a separate thing, but it'll do that. It'll allow you to play different instruments on the tracks. So I'm going to isolate the melody visually, but I'm going to play everybody down here. So you'll get to hear the trumpet one melody, which for most of the piece has the melody, and you'll get to hear all the other stuff behind it, but you'll only see this, just so I can illustrate how the melody looks in this. All right, so I'll stop there. So that those first 8 bars, if you've played Tetris, if you've seen the videos, or if you have any familiarity with it at all, you probably recognize that melody. It's a pretty iconic melody. It's pretty familiar for a lot of people. So what I like to think about when I'm arranging is, first, that's a very important melody. I need to keep that consistent. I need to have it presented in a way that the listener is going to be able to actually understand, hey, that's the melody, that's important. So a really easy way to do that, at least for brass writing, is put it in the highest voice that people are most likely going to be able to actually identify. So let's put everything else back in here, and I'll show you if I can click correctly. I can't see what you guys are seeing because I have to record my face for the purposes of the recording, so apologies if it's a little confusing. But you can see right here, you have the melody here, you have da 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 da, whatever right here, and then the trumpet 2 part actually has the counter melody below it, and then you have horn, then you have trombone, euphonium, and tuba down here. So since this is up higher, and the trumpets are the only instruments outside of tuba that are marked with a forte dynamic, that's actually going to push the texture above the accompaniment instruments. And since it's actually a flowing melody and not just these upbeats down here, that's going to be a lot more present for the listener, and just makes it really easy for the ensemble not to have to worry about balancing as much when you have these parts down here automatically written to where they're going to be out of the way, so to speak, of the melody. So this first 8 bars, you have it set like this. You have melody, counter melody, accompaniment. And then when we get down here to this B section right here, you have the second trumpet, French horn, trombone, and euphonium play. It's not really a melody so much as it just is kind of like a reduction of a theme. And then you have the first trumpet and you have the tuba doing this do 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 like a arpeggiation kind of thing. So let's listen to that as well. So you see right there, what you do is you add a little bit of variety by changing which voice is dominant, so it doesn't get annoying to listen to when just one texture is having the melody the entire time. So the lead voice in this is actually the horn and the euphonium on the concert D natural, B flat, C, A natural, and then back to that again, going down in like a sequence kind of motion. So that adds a little bit of variety to it. And the original, if you've played the original Game Boy game from, I think it was 1988 or something, it's all chip tuned, right? So you can't really tell what kind of different instruments are being played. It's all electronic music. There's technically different sounds, different waveforms they're using for that, but it's kind of homogenized. So when you get to write for a different medium, you can actually think to yourself, what kind of texture do I want to present? What kind of variety can I add to this that wasn't around in the original form, and how can I improve? So that's what I want to do with that, because specifically euphonium and French horn are a much warmer texture than trumpet and trombone are, and to some extent tuba's kind of in the middle depending on how it's played. But you have the opportunity to do different things like that. And then we go back again to the original melody as kind of a recapitulation here. And of course, first trumpet, if you're still looking at the live screen, I can't see exactly what it's showing there, but it should be what I'm hopefully pointing at on my other monitor.
You're good. You're
Yeah,
good.
the first trumpet has the melody again, and the second trumpet has the counter melody. And then we go back to these upbeats down here. But then you have other things that are kind of in between. Like, say, right here, you have this horn's got these pickup notes, duh, 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 and then they actually land on the same note. This is a concert D right here. They land on the same note as the low brass do, as kind of like a lead into the dominant, or the tonic rather. And then, of course, trumpet goes in. First trumpet is on that D as well. Actually, everybody's on a D, I'm pretty sure, right here. Yeah, everybody's on the D, and then they go back into their different key centers here. And then let's see, where there was one other spot in here. Yeah, there's a pickup right here, and then I think it's up here again as well, where the low brass kind of have this transition kind of thing. If you listen to this measure. Yeah, and then the trombones and the euphoniums come in with the A natural, the B flat, and then the C to kind of just lead the ear into expecting an ascending melody line, and then that's where the trumpet takes over. So again, in the original piece, it's all chiptune. If I were to go online, I'm sure someone has made a MIDI of it from, I don't know, the early 90s when everybody was doing that, if any of you were old enough to remember the internet before everybody just stopped listening to MIDI files. But that's the idea is, when you arrange something, you want to retain at least I think you want to retain the original character of the piece, and in so doing, you can do fun stuff that might be idiomatic to the ensemble that you're arranging for, like specifically brass quartet, quintet, whatever. Brass ensemble writing, you can take advantage of the different tonal colors and the different types of energies that the instruments actually use, and you can kind of imitate some, and specifically for video game music, older like chiptune type stuff, you can kind of imitate that sound if you're careful with how you do the writing and the arrangements and how the voicing sets up. So hopefully that was a little bit of a helpful example. I'll go ahead and stop streaming that screen, but hopefully that was helpful to kind of see a little bit of what I was thinking when I was putting that arrangement down into my notation software. And obviously it's a simple song. It's just a thing that repeats every, I don't know, 30 seconds in the original game. So there's not a lot of stuff to take out. There's not really anything you can add without it being kind of like, okay, well, what's that? If you're doing a more complicated piece, then you're going to have problems trying to figure out what to take out. Like, I know when I did this past week's one, which was the what was it again? I'm old, you'll have to forgive me. But when I was doing this past week's arrangement, I had to do a lot of it was the Dragonborn theme from Skyrim. I don't know how I could forget that. That's like a 4-minute piece. So when I was sitting in there trying to condense it down to about a minute, maybe a little bit more than a minute for the play platform, there's a lot of stuff I had to cut out. So if you played the game, probably most people who play video games have played Skyrim at this point, but if you played the game and you're familiar with the theme that plays when you first start up the games on the loading screen or whatever, you're going to notice that I've actually combined a lot of different elements from that into one segment because you simply don't have time. And if you want to have the overall feel of a piece, or you want to have every different part that's present in there in a condensed arrangement, then you're going to have to make sacrifices, and you're going to have to find out, what can I combine, what can I drop, what can I just layer on top of something else to make it at least seem like everything is represented. If you do that really well, people are going to appreciate your arrangements and think there's actually more present than there is, which is always fun because then you get to feel smart. But that is a brief overview of my composing arranging process. If anyone has any questions, I can field those. If not, I'm sure Dana has stuff she wants to talk about as well. So just wanted to give a very quick opportunity in case anyone wanted to ask me anything. If not, we'll move on to what Dana's got to say.
You can also type it in the chat as well if that's your preference, but we'll give you a couple seconds. That gives me a second to get all of my stuff figured out. So, yeah, I really appreciate all that you were saying, JC, because that is a lot of the stuff that I was also going to say, because, you know, arranging is a somewhat, you know, a lot of people have a lot of the same thoughts about it and the process and everything. But so what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about I believe it's my most recent one that I put up. It was last week's. I'm going to talk about Gelato Beach, not only because that arrangement was quite popular this week, but because it's the best example of all of the stylistic things that I'm going to talk about. So I am going to pretty exclusively talk about my creative approach to arranging, because JC did a great job with talking about all kinds of fundamentals and stuff. So I just sort of want to add on to that a little bit more about my personal creative process. And I think additionally as well, if this is not something that you have done before, and if this is not something that you're really, you know, that you really know what to do, that's a-okay. Like we were saying earlier as well, we're not covering a ton of theory today, as you can tell, which you might find that limiting if that is something that you haven't done before and you really want to, you know, know the theory before you get into it. But I think that it's important to remember that composing and arranging and everything is still a really awesome, really wonderful thing to do, even if you don't know the theory, because this theory that we're talking about is a set of, you know, relatively strict conventions for Western music, right? It's not the be-all, end-all of all music that there ever was. So it doesn't mean that you have to perfectly adhere to all of this theory, even if the stuff that you're doing is kind of in a Western, you know, Western classical, Western whatever style. You don't have to perfectly adhere to the theory, because that is stuff that you are going to learn in a more, you know, regulated place than a weekly Discord, you know, pop-in kind of deal. And you can super easily learn that stuff, you know, online, wherever. But basically, if you have never done this before, I don't want anyone to feel limited by the fact that they might not know theory, you know, because it is still equally important to just be able to jump into it, to exercise your creative muscles. Like, you could still do all of this stuff without knowing the theory. So with that being said, I'm going to share some kind of specific techniques that I do. So like JC was saying earlier, what was JC saying earlier? Sorry, very stressful morning. I was just telling him I have to rush out after this, so I'm a little all over the place. Pardon me. But I have lost that train of thought. Yes, like JC was saying earlier, there's all kinds of ways that you could approach an arrangement, right? It's maybe you are genre bending, maybe you want to keep it faithful to the original, maybe you're transcribing. What I generally do on the Play platform is, because we are sort of limited to relatively shorter arrangements, you will rarely find anything that is longer than 1.5 minutes on the Play platform. And so that is one of our limiting factors. And so we really need to be able to deliver the essence of a piece within 90 seconds or preferably less, right? So a lot of what we do is condensing and making sure that you still get all of the same feelings of the original piece in a much shorter time frame. So I'll kind of show you how I did that. This one admittedly is not too bad because the original Gelato Beach theme from Super Mario Sunshine, it just loops over and over, same as JC's. We actually both happen to choose video game background music arrangements for today, which is kind of funny. So you might not see a ton of condensing happening here. Maybe we'll share that at another time. But anyway, going to attempt to share my screen. JC is always the one who does this, so you'll have to tell me if this is working. Give me just a moment, okay? Share your screen. Then this might, yeah, I'll just share my entire screen, and we're all going to really hope that this works, okay? We'll take it to Muse Score, and give me just a moment. All right. Tell me if you can hear this, all right?
I heard a very brief thing and then silence.
That is very frustrating.
Yes,
well, you know what? I can just we can look at the sheet music and go from there.
Through play itself and just play.
We wouldn't be able to hear the score. That's okay.
Okay, that's right. That's your problem, is your computer doesn't do the audio.
Yeah, this is a fun little Mac thing. So I'll get this figured out for the future. But anyway, we can look at it here, right? So this viola part right here actually emulates that pitched percussion that you were hearing at the very beginning. And I guess that I can go over and you can hear right here. We'll take it back to the beginning. Because you're able to hear this, right?
Not once you start playing. I know, it's hilarious the way the Mac.
How frustrating. Yes, that's okay. That's okay. So we'll take it back to Muse Score and we'll just do it off of the score. So this viola part right here, like I was just saying, does in fact emulate a pitched percussion part, which is very funky because in the original of this one, which, you know, you guys, if you're watching later, you could just pause the stream right now and go listen to it on YouTube, or you can, you know, if you're watching this live, you can go listen to this at any point. But right here, this viola part is emulating some pitched percussion because this one has tons of percussion going on, which is funky because I am the string section leader, so I mostly write for strings, right? And I frankly do not know how to write for percussion instruments. That's something that I'm probably going to kind of get into in the future to challenge myself a bit. But as you can see, for this one, I also added a finger snap and a hand clap that are kind of trading off the rhythm, right? To kind of emulate just how much percussion is in the original. And now I could show you on the score super easily, so you can see, you know, there's the melody. Melody comes in right here at measure 3. Viola kind of just keeps jamming for a while. And then this is one of the first techniques that I want to talk about, and something that is certainly not unique to my music in any way. None of these are going to be unique to my music, but are just some things that I like to do quite often that might help you kind of spice up your arrangements or whatever, is I really like to play with layering. So at the very beginning, you can see it's quite sparse, right? Viola, bass, and then the body percussion. And then here, we're adding in one more part in measure 3, right? We're adding in the melody. And then as we get to, here we go, measure 7, which it's a little funky because it's like a 2-bar phrase at the beginning, but then we have our first 4-bar phrase right here, which is a super standard unit of, a super standard phrase length is 4 measures. So at the second phrase, which starts here at measure 7, you could see that the cello part comes in, and it comes in quietly and starts to kind of layer itself in. And then if we go, where is it? It changes here. This is, so at measure 7, that's just the repetition of the first theme, same deal. Measure 11 here, the next theme comes in, and then the cello kind of starts to get a little bit more intricate. There's a bit more going on. And it is right here, measure 15, where we finally layer in the high harmony, So now we finally have all of these parts active, and they aren't even active until measure 15, right? And this high harmony is super duper quiet. So it's not even really pulling too much focus, right? So this still might not sound like a super duper full bodied arrangement because so much of these parts are quite piano. This one is piano, this one is piano, this one is quiet ish, you know? So that still doesn't sound like a super full sound. However, we totally strip it down right here. Everything else goes out. It is just a viola solo. The contrabass rhythm changes right here. And then both of their percussions are just doing quarter notes, which I just think is very fun. This makes me think of like a dance circle or something like that, where everybody's just kind of clapping together. And then we have a couple solos here, and then again, haha, layering it in right here. That's such a big thing that I do. We have the other layer comes in. Same deal. This is where the phrase changes. Once again, this is a new phrase. There's another layer of high harmony coming in. And then this time the solo switches to the cello right here, and even the bass is changing. This was a very funky part to notate, by the way. This was very unusual. And then finally, at measure 31, we actually have a full sound. We have these two in very close harmony. They're just a third apart. Full forte. This is at forte. This is at mezzo forte. It's emulating a percussion part. It shouldn't get too loud. And then it's pretty much like that till the very end. So that kind of goes to show you how I do my layering, which is such a big deal to me. I think that it's so effective. And I also think that every arrangement should kind of take you on a bit of a journey, which I know is a corny thing to say, but that's how I feel about it. And you can see, it starts off so sparse and then it's so full at the very end. And so that's something that I do. That's a way that I kind of tend to do that stuff. And then taking it back a little as well, like I said, it was very, very challenging with this one to emulate those percussion parts. So because they're very, very detailed in the original. So I obviously had to pare that down for this one. And this is kind of an example of, as we were talking about it before, this is an example of having to kind of transform something from the original because it just doesn't work for the current instrumentation or my current knowledge of notating for percussion. Haha. So this was something that I had to change up and that I had to transform for this ensemble, for this platform, working within my limitations. And that was by far the biggest thing that I had to change about this arrangement. But that's kind of some of the stuff that I wanted to talk about. I know that is much more detailed, perhaps, and much more just focusing on one topic than JC might have been. But, he laid a great overview, so that allows me to kind of be more specific with it. Ending my stream now. There we go. My apologies if that was a little bit funky again. But let's see. JC, do you have anything else that you want to say on this topic before we open up for any possible questions? Do you have anything else that you might like to add?
Yeah, so we didn't really talk too much about actual composing, and that's because there's a lot of different stuff that you could possibly say about like what inspires you to compose, what like kind of different things you enjoy, like which artists you might want to emulate when you're writing original music or take inspiration from. And there's not enough time to really go into all of those kind of motivations. So if you're more interested in original composing than arranging, the best advice I can give you within the time frame of, well, what I have available to talk to you, which is probably another 2 minutes before we have to move on, is just think about the kind of music you like to listen to, how it makes you feel, and think about what you might want to write original music to evoke similar feelings or to have a similar type of style. Like, for example, if you want to write film music and you really like John Williams' music, listen to a lot of his stuff. Try to see if you can get your hands on scores or watch people online that do analysis videos on different music stuff. There's tons of people that do different breakdowns on things and will pick out individual parts and talk about the overarching theory concepts and stuff. There's tons of resources available online if you want to learn about that kind of stuff. But I would encourage you to get inspired by listening to your favorite artists, favorite composers, or even just something you might not think you might enjoy. And you never know if you're going to get inspiration from something. So just get in tune with what you want to make and make what you want to make, and don't let other people tell you you have to write something if it's not what you want to write. Because if you're making something original, why would you waste your time trying to do something you don't want to do? You have the ability, you have the time, you have the resources to do it. Do it. Just make something that is you and not what somebody else wants you to make. Because if you want to do
Mm.
something else that somebody's already done, then just emulate something somebody's already done or make an arrangement or something. That's fine too. But if you want to truly be creative, you're going to have to figure out what that means for yourself. So outside of that, I don't really have too much else to say within the confines of the time we have available. So if you have any questions about anything we've discussed or not discussed, now is the time. And if not, we will go ahead and move on to our blind test portion that everybody always has fun with every week.
Yeah, I'll also have to run right after this because I have a pretty intense rehearsal schedule today. It's like 7 hours or something like that. Wish me luck.
Woof.
But anyways, yeah, I'll have to run. Any questions, like we were saying, go for it. Um, oh, here we go. Here's one. What would you say is the best to start with when doing an arrangement? Let's see. For me personally, I'll answer for myself. Of course, I listen to the original a couple of times if I'm not familiar with it. Usually it is something I'm familiar with because I write the song polls and everything that determines what we arrange. But yes, it would be listening to the original and really figuring out what makes it unique, right? Like for that Gelato Beach thing that I was talking about, what makes it super unique is all of that percussion. Like I was saying, it's the percussion and obviously the melody, obviously. But it's sort of feeling out what stylistic things about the original that I really want to preserve and play around with. And that I think are the most sort of quintessential to that piece specifically. That's where I kind of start. And then I figure out, I put down the melody and I figure out how to start adding in all of those harmonies and details and everything like that. JC, what about you? Where do you start when you are arranging something?
So that's actually pretty similar to the approach that I take when I'm doing an arrangement. I did start out as a euphonium player, which, if you're not familiar, is a instrument that is tenor voiced in the brass family, and typically will play similar parts to like what maybe a cello or a trombone might play. So I usually have more of an ear for picking out that kind of stuff because that's just what I've been playing for 19 years. I'm old, but the point I'm getting at is go with what's most familiar to you. If you're a bass player, it's probably going to be a bass line. If you're a violin player, it maybe might be the melody. If you're a percussionist, it might
I
be
have
the
a
rhythms
hard
and the
time
percussion.
picking out bass lines. Yes,
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 that
yes.
is that is one of the most valuable things when I was in school for music for a brief period of time. It was one of the most valuable things I did was listening skills and dictation. So if you have the opportunity to just sit down with a sheet of paper, not a computer, just a sheet of paper and a pen and staff lines or whatever, and just listen to something and try to write out the rhythms you hear, write out the pitches, try to do figured bass if you're familiar with what that is, or whatever your style of how you write music, try to do it by ear and figure out, can I pick out this line? Can I pick out that line? Can I pick out the melody? Can I pick out the bass line? What about the inner harmonies? And that's one of the harder things, is figuring out how harmonic lines move. And that's when it can be helpful to just have different experience playing different instruments, so you might be familiar with how they sound or how they might play, and how composers who write a lot more music than you might have written before like to write different things. Like, for example, specific instruments like trombone. Unless you're a really, really good trombone player, you're probably not playing really fast 16th notes, moving different uh, points on the scale, because you have to move your arm fast enough, right? It's very, very hard. And there's trombone players that can do it when they get to a high advanced level of playing. But considerations of understanding how different instruments work will help you notate things better and make more realistic arrangements. So hopefully that's helpful information. I do want to go and address the next question that was asked in the text chat, which is, how do I upload a composition? So specifically on Play, if you go in the Discord, there is a channel called Score Submissions, and that should be available to you if you, I think, have the player and band member ranks.
I think it's available to anybody. It doesn't look like it's locked on here.
Okay. But that is where
Oh,
you can post something if you have a score you want us to consider. Keep in mind that for the Play platform, it does need to be relatively short, around a minute in length, and the members of the Jelly Note or Play staff will take a look at it and see if it looks like it's good to go, if it's accessible, playable, and something the community might enjoy, and we will get back to you on if it's a fit for the platform, and if it's good, then we'll upload it, and it should be available within a couple of days. So that's the
couple
process for that.
points. Couple points to note as well is that we do have a style guide that is available that kind of
Mm-hmm.
shows you what some of the limitations are of play. It sounds like a negative word, but I find those guidelines very helpful. I find those limitations extremely helpful, actually. But we do have a document that talks about kind of all of the guidelines of how to get a score that best works on the Play platform. And to be able to actually have your score put onto the platform, you have to have the band member rank, which is super simple. All that you have to do is A, you have to play, any of them. And then B, you have to play in one of our challenge plays, which at the moment, those are, what are our challenges? We have several:
Mm-hmm.
Stranger Things, Mr. Blue Sky, Coconut Mall, or Doctor Who. And that is how you get the band member role, and that is how you can upload. And the reason that we have those things in place is because we figure that, you can't write for Play if you don't really understand the platform and how it feels and how it works and everything like that. So that is why we have sort of those limitations in place, but that's how you can do it. Yeah.
Right. And just
Um,
real quick to kind of expand on that, the reason that we do that is because these are all one take videos. So if you have something uploaded that's 7 minutes long, it might be an awesome arrangement. But if you make one mistake 6 minutes in, you're going to hate yourself. It is just the goal here is we're trying to make stuff that's accessible and fun for everybody to play. And the best way to do that is to have shorter arrangements that are achievable and you don't have to spend a ton of time rehearsing on. So I did see one more question pop up, and then we are going to have to move on to the blind test portion. Are big band jazz compositions okay? Yes. Pretty much any instrumentation, anything you want to put on, as long as it uses instruments that exist, we'll be able to consider and see if it will work fine. We have most of the big band instruments are instruments that we already write for. So obviously it'll be saxophones, it'll be trumpets, trombones, electric bass, drum set, all that, piano even. So if you have something that fits, that even if you're not sure it fits, drop it in there anyway. It might be something that's cool. We have stuff on the Play platform that has a video of a cat making sounds that we put different instruments on top of. So don't feel like you're limited to traditional stuff. We can have all sorts of fun doing different things. So
I want to give
yeah.
one more before we truly do move on as well. One more thing as well is, sorry, I just glitched there.
That's fine.
Give me a minute. Oh my god, sorry. It's a very stressful day, so I am going crazy. Yes, one more plug for our composition seminar next week. That is also a way that you can get your music onto Play. Is, again, you have to have the band member role, like we were saying before, but you don't have to have any kind of roles on the Discord to be able to submit things to this composition seminar. All the information right now it's under announcements in the announcements channel, but it is also available if you click on events on the side. You can also see all the information for that. But that is happening, I believe, a week from this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And you can submit absolutely anything. And we are generally going to be giving critiques for things that will go for, oh my god. We will be giving critiques for things that are a bit more oriented towards the Play platform. So we super duper encourage people to submit things that are kind of geared towards Play. But even if you do have something that's just, something that you really want some feedback on or anything like that, you can absolutely submit it there. We would love to have some more submissions. They do not need to be final products. They can absolutely be works in progress. They could be, as long as they are written for instruments that exist, like JC was saying, then it's pretty much good. So submit whatever you have. We would love to hear it. We would love to listen to it. And we'll be critiquing those specific compositions, kind of in the same way that we were talking about our own today. That's kind of what that will look like. But yeah, we hope to see you there. We're very excited about it. Now, let's go ahead and move on to our next segment. I have to run, like I was saying earlier, but thanks for hanging out. It is always a pleasure. And I will see you guys next week, if not sooner. Take care. Have fun.
See ya. All right, so I'm still here and you're still here. So let's have a little bit of fun doing a blind test. Ian is not here this week, so you guys have a chance. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the first one here. We do have five, in case you're not familiar with how this works, we do have five examples of plays on the Play platform that we're going to play back. And as soon as you think you know the name for it, you can unmute and say what the name is. You can type in the text chat. I will be monitoring that as well. And whoever gets the most out of five correct will win some sweet Jelly Note merch. Another one of those t-shirts that Sylvain modeled, I don't know, 3 weeks ago. But we'll go ahead and speed through these five right quick. You should be able to see now my live screen of this first one. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Not quite. Sounds like it though. So for those of you not in the text chat, Juice Pro asked if it was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood theme. It's not, but it does sound similar from the instrumentation perspective. That's because there's a cat piano in this one. Viola Player says, raindrops keep falling on my head. Yes, that is the name of the composition. Let me pull up the list of people that had played this one. So that was, if I mispronounced this, I am so sorry. And Nikki, Yagme, and Landon on that one. Cat piano is a fun instrument. That was the bottom right two submissions there. So we'll go ahead and move on to, why did I close my my folder here? Blind tests. One moment, please. I have to find this folder again. Always fun when I can't open a file when I'm on a live call. Yeah, so that's the first one there. We'll go ahead and open up the second one. Reshare my screen again. All right, so you should be able to see now. We'll go ahead and start with the second one.
Gelato Beach?
That's exactly what it was. Now you'll have to refresh my memory on who said that because I wasn't looking at the microphone icons.
It's me, Floof.
Ah. That wasn't the floof icon that spoke when you said that.
We swapped places.
Are you sure? That would be me in the bottom right with the these same exact sunglasses I got right here. It's hard to put them on over actual glasses, so I won't do that. But yes, that is Gelato Beach. That is the piece that Dana was showing off earlier. It's kind of funny that the audio didn't work for that because I was about to say, man, that's going to be such an easy guess, but no, her audio didn't work. So that was Gelato Beach, Koji Kondo composing that one. Ian on bass, some emoji I can't see on dark mode Discord. Sheesh, what does that even say? I can't. It's Antoine. Okay, one of the Jelly Note team who does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. His name on Discord is the ant emoji and then OINE, or maybe that's just the message somebody sent me. Resun, Dana, of course, Milo, Simonholm, Samuel Dorfman, and me in the bottom right playing Sunglass Vibes, and then a very, very quiet alto clef euphonium interpretation of the viola solo in that. So that's a fun piece. Viola Player, I definitely heard you say that and not Floof, as much as I would love to give Floof some points for that one. Gonna give you those. Test 3. This is a fun one.
Force?
It's not Havana, and it's not the Force theme.
Ah.
The Four Seasons?
Which one?
Summer?
Yes, it is Summer. Good job on that one. On 16 Sylvains on electric guitar. Such an odd instrumentation for this, but I like it. It works. That's always what's really fun about stuff like this is Sylvain will just come out of nowhere and just make a billion plays. I think he made like 55 in a week last week in the leaderboard stats at least. No, but that's a fun one. That is again, that's up on the Play platform. That was originally, of course, an orchestral composition, and there's parts for all these different instruments, but he just decided he was going to go in and play every single one on his guitar, which is definitely allowed and definitely encouraged. So that gives I'm Not Sorry a point. We got Viola Player with 2, I'm Not Sorry with 1. You have the opportunity, anybody else, to at the very least tie if you get the next 2 correct. So we'll go ahead and start with number 4.
I want to say Autumn Leaves.
That's what it is.
I feel like we've already done it on this, though.
We did. We did it a couple weeks ago, so it's actually good that you came back and remembered that. And in the interest of time, this is like 3 minutes long, so we're not going to play the whole time. But I did want to play a little bit of that for you guys. That is Autumn Leaves by Risan, Alan, Osotar, Ian, and Dana, and then also I said Alan. I don't know why. I'm used to seeing his full name on the Discord and the Play app. So we got one more left. So we got Floof with 1, I'm Not Sorry with 1, and Viola Player with 2. So either I'm Not Sorry or Floof has the chance to tie with Viola Player and be a winner this week. We got one more.
MCU
Force?
theme.
It's not the Force theme. Floof, did you say?
MCU,
The MCU thing.
Yeah. All right, you're
Avengers
very close.
Assemble.
Huh?
Avengers Assemble.
Yep, that's correct. I'll give it to both of you because Floof was very quick on the draw there. Boy, this is an old one. This is from like March, I think.
I just called it that because that's what was called in the challenge area.
Right.
It was like MCU. Here, let me go and
Yeah, that's exactly
take
that's
a
why.
look really quick.
No, that's what it was
in our
called.
Archived.
It was
events.
MCU. That was the name of the actual channel for that. So you'll get
No,
credit for
it
that.
was Avengers.
Well, I'll give it to you anyway.
But it was
You got it almost immediately.
Ultimate. So
Yeah.
they rewrote MCU from Marvel Cinematic Universe to Music Challenge Ultimate.
Yeah. I think that was actually Morgan's doing, who does all the social stuff. So she's fun with that. Let's see. So that's a 3-way tie for first place here, which is I think the first time that's ever happened in the history of the blind tests. So I'll get you guys in contact with, well, Morgan also handles this. I'll get you in contact with her about getting stuff shipped out. I think you might already be getting a shirt by being a beta tester, because the cutoff for that was, I don't know. We'll get it figured out. But so all of you will actually get the Game Night Champion roles in the Discord now. So that is the end of the formalities here for this episode 7 of the Playground. Hope you had a good time. As always, we do hang out after the show ends, just in the Discord. But if you're watching on YouTube, this is the end of the show. Don't forget that we have our composition and arrangement seminar next week, Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, whatever that means in your individual time zone. Should be 4 p.m. Pacific, and over there in Europe, I think that is probably pretty late on Friday night, but we'll get that stuff going. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.